Okay, well, good morning, everybody, and thank you for being here today. My name is Lamar Thorpe, Mayor of the City of Antioch, and that is Lamarthorpe. Just wanted to give some updates in terms of what we're planning here in the city. Since we announced that the Antioch Police Department is currently under investigation by both the FBI and the Contra Costa County District Attorney's Office, many in the press, like yourselves, many residents have regularly asked about updates related to this matter. And as always, this is an ongoing investigation, and so we want to respect that process, but I understand the community's frustration in wanting answers to these issues. I can say that currently, of the 57 patrol officers within our department, 8 are under investigation by the FBI and the Contra Costa District Attorney's Office. That's about 15% of our patrol officers throughout the city, or an estimated 10% of the Antioch police force. For those who are familiar with the process, we know that at some point either a criminal grand jury has been impaneled or will be impaneled, for those who are familiar with the process, and as a result could increase the number of officers under investigation. When I ran for mayor, I did so knowing that I was inheriting years of insufficient oversight of the Antioch Police Department at all levels of government. That's why when I took office almost 2 years ago, police reform was and continues to be my top priority in the interest of public safety. I am in full support of the work being done by the FBI and DA's office, but I also recognize and appreciate that we're a nation of laws and everyone is afforded the right to due process. So I do not make any judgments here today. If this process reveals any criminal wrongdoing, the sooner we can root out officers that should not be wearing the badge, it will be better for our city as we work towards building relationships built on trust with our community. On that note, this is equally about protecting those police officers that have chosen to serve with honor on a daily basis. And so we want to make sure that they are respected as well. They deserve to be viewed through a lens of their commitment and serve as they have served the city of Antioch with distinction. Recently, the new leadership of the Antioch Police Officers Association requested to meet with me. And it became more and more clear to me that at that meeting that our police officers need stable and steadfast leadership. And so I want to let our Antioch Police Officers Association know that I hear them. And I hear them loud and clear. And that is why I want to announce that I will be calling for a special meeting where we can officially appoint Con Johnson as our permanent city manager, and subsequently appoint Dr. Steve Ford, our permanent chief of police. His extensive background as a former member of the San Francisco Police Department and his commitment to accountability make Con Johnson a perfect fit for our city given the circumstances. Once officially in place, as I said before, he'll move to appoint Dr. Steve Ford as chief of police permanently. We do, as part of our police reform initiative, we did have, we were setting out to develop a process that permanently establishes how we hire the chief of police. But given the circumstances of today, we just can't wait for that process. The uncertainty of this investigation leads me to believe that we do need stability at the city and with the police department. Antioch residents expect a city govgovernment in which every department is held accountable for its actions. With Mr. Johnson and Dr. Ford at the helm, that is precisely what they will get. With that, I will turn it over to Dr. Steve Ford for a few additional remarks.
He has to unmute.
Dr. Ford, you have to unmute yourself. He must not want the job. Dr. Ford, can you hear me? I thought you weren't coming.
No, I snuck out of the election.
Well, thank you.
With
Thank
a
you.
big chief, with a big chief.
Yeah, oh, man.
It was a Zoom meeting.
Oh, okay.
With the staff, the whole staff. They're gonna record it.
Oh, okay.
I hope it works better than this one. Zoom is not 100%.
I was told I was pooling this out to everyone too. You're the pool, that helps. That's what I was told. If it's actually happening, I don't know.
Our station's rolling on, they're actually rolling on you and not us.
Try to do a good job.
Where are you? Oh, you're with KTVU?
Yeah. Just
We
make
share
sure.
video though, so like I
Oh,
send it out
okay.
and then everybody gets it.
Usually it was never like that before everything that happened in 2020, but it's one thing that they're holding on to as we, move forward. It's a practice.
Probably more efficient.
I mean, we're supposed to be competitive, but,
There's
it
nothing.
does allow us to be more efficient, yes, but, we still end up at the same place.
Well, since Telemundo decided to join us, no, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, we will need Spanish.
Oh, you will?
Yeah, we can do it after.
Oh, okay.
I was told you could provide it, so.
I could, yes. I'm sorry, I didn't do
We
my
can do it
remarks in
after.
Spanish, but I can do some
We can
sign
do it
stuff.
after.
Yeah, that's fine.
Are the officers under investigation, are they still on duty?
No, they're on administrative leave. While we wait for Dr. Ford, I can certainly take any questions if you had any burning questions.
We'll wait for their mic to get set up.
Okay.
I can give you a piece of tape.
What's that? I think so.
Good morning.
Okay, here we go.
She's got a,
Good morning.
good morning.
I think someone does, I think,
You're
the
on.
assistant- the city manager's, mic is muted.
Oh. Oh. That's why he couldn't hear us. Can you hear us now?
Yep, I got it now.
Okay, well, thank
right.
you.
My
So,
apologies.
no worries. You can get started.
I'm on.
Yes, you can get started.
Oh, okay, good morning. This is Stephen Thorpe of the Antioch Police Department. First and foremost, the information today is extremely disturbing. However, today also represents a new beginning for this organization. And I emphasize the circumstances do not represent our organization as a whole. I sincerely apologize to the profession, the city of Antioch, and the general public that we're in this current situation. This organization embodies reputable and dedicated members who are deeply committed to providing high-quality law enforcement services. And moving forward, we will be purposeful in restoring trust, respect, and legitimacy from our citizenry. To make certain this organization remains healthy and whole, in the near future, we will receive high-level leadership and supervisory training to set a strong foundation of internal accountability and external legitimacy. In addition, in the near future, within our promoted ranks, we'll have new, forward-thinking leadership, establishing a strong foundation in support of procedural justice policies, procedures, and best practices. I'm confident we will reestablish ourselves with those who may be skeptical about who we are and what we stand for. In closing, let me be clear. There is no room for the alleged behavior. I take the reputation of the profession and this organization extremely serious, and will do everything in my power to ensure we move forward in a professional, consistent, and transparent manner. Thank you all for your time and attention this morning.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
Mayor, we've heard a lot about this investigation, but not a lot at the same time. Moral turpitude, a lot of ambiguity. Can you say anything more about the specifics of what these allegations are about?
As you know, Evan, this is an investigation, and so, no, I cannot say anything else other than sharing that we have 8 officers that are under investigation, and that continues to hamper our ability to do our work and to keep the public safe. And so to the extent that we can try to fix that, we will. And so what I heard loud and clear from our police union was the need for steadfast and stable leadership. At least that was my takeaway. And so our strategy is to continue to build up the leadership to ensure that as whatever comes out of this investigation, we're prepared for it.
This is, what, 15% of your police force here?
Not 15% of the police force, 15% of our patrol officers, the folks who are on the streets every day patrolling and keeping the community safe. And it's about an estimated 10% of the overall police force of the current numbers that we have right now.
That's a staggering amount for any jurisdiction.
It's an embarrassing amount, yes.
How is the city able to, make sure that there's enough officers? Is there a, shortage when it comes to just fulfilling basic patrol requirements?
Ensuring that morale is high with the police department, because we want to make sure we retain officers. That is why I'm going to push to ensure that we move the process for the appointment of a city manager expeditiously, and then subsequently a permanent chief of police, and that hopefully will be Dr. Steve Ford. Second, tomorrow night we will be voting on my incentive package that I proposed about a month or 2 ago. So tomorrow's the official vote, and we'll see if council has the courage and leadership to ensure that we're coming up with incentives that attract more officers. As you know, my proposal is a $40,000 signing incentive for new police officers. That includes academy grads and laterals. For the academy grads, we're also looking at an option so that they can use their bonus towards a down payment of a home here in Antioch, because we want to invest in folks who are going to be here long term. So, we're coming up with the initiatives and proposals that I think will help us both maintain and build up the ranks, but we got to take action for that. And as you know, government doesn't work because one person says it has to happen. It requires the mayor and the city council to work together. So tomorrow night we'll start to see whether or not if the appetite is there to create bold change.
And what about just the culture within the police department in general? 8 officers probably reflects something that's more systemic within the ranks of the police department.
And
confident that can change
I am confident that can change, and I've started to see, the fact that I had a meeting recently with our new leadership at the police union. I think that was a signal to me that the police union is also moving towards change and willing to turn the page in embracing new ideas. I've had many conversations with many of our police officers who may not have been receptive to our police reforms, who are applauding our efforts around the body cameras, or applauding our efforts around dash cams and other reforms that I think not only make the community safe and build trust, but also make our police officers safe. And so I think we are starting to. It's going to be a large ship to turn, but we are starting to see some inkling into a new way of thinking at the Antioch Police Department. Chief Ford is critical in that. I said it before, I'll say it again, he is Mr. Police Reform, and we're happy to take him from San Francisco because he initiated all of the police reforms, was the only commander in the San Francisco Police Department that initiated all of their tasks as it relates to police reform. And so I think that he's definitely focusing on the internal culture of the police department. He started, as he mentioned earlier, building up of the leadership in the ranks, and so in a few months he'll be making his own promotions. And so we will start to see we'll start to see a new type of leadership at the police department that I think will be critical in creating cultural change. And of course, Con Johnson is a retired San Francisco police officer, and so he was there when the reforms were happening, or at the beginning stages of their reforms. So he comes with a wealth of experience. It was through Con Johnson's recommendation that we brought Dr. Steve Ford, and so we're excited to have him. And it's that type of leadership that we're looking for to hopefully change the culture.
And just, what would be your message to the community where maybe there is some distrust of law enforcement and they hear about, these incidents? What would be your message to those folks that are hearing about this news today?
Well, I'm certainly sorry that we find ourselves in these circumstances. Change doesn't come overnight, and I ask for folks to be patient with the process and patient with us as government as we work towards building a culture here that works for all segments of our community. And I've seen, we've had new cultural events here at the city that we've never done before. The police department has been a key partner in those events and trying to extend an arm out to the community. So we think that those types of efforts, along with Chief Ford's leadership, along with Con Johnson's leadership, will help in building that trust. And then, of course, the measures that we've pushed are historic for the city, and I know that those are building trust within our community.
Lamar, are you still going to advance a position, the deputy chief position that you mentioned earlier, that you were going to advance the idea of having a deputy police chief position?
Yes, so the answer is we're still working on that. It may not be a deputy chief. It could be something more in the form of a commander or more of a senior captain type position. Because as we started to look at that, and then the requirements prescribed by why am I forgetting the acronym? The training post. The post requirements. There are certain bureaus and divisions that would then need to come along with that we may not need, and so looking at a commander position or a new captain position may fulfill what we want to get to.
What do you expect to get with that position?
The goal is to have a clear chain of command, that there is no confusion about who our number 2 person at the police department is. One, for chain of command purposes, 2, for succession planning, and 3, to ensure that there's someone constantly dedicated to these retention and recruitment issues that are plaguing every single police department throughout the country. It is not unique to the city of Antioch. This is a challenge throughout the country that everybody is facing, whether it's police officers, whether it's teachers, whether it's whatever it may be. It seems like every industry is having a shortage of workers, and we need to get as great as we can to attract new workforce.
Okay, and back to the investigation for a minute. It's been going on for, seems like a long time. How do we know how long, any idea how long it's going to continue, this investigation?
I can't answer that, but what I what all of you know is that these investigations take a while because there's a process. We're all familiar with the grand jury process, and then we're all familiar what happens then after that. And so I can only assume that that's the process that's happening right now. But that's just an assumption based on what we all know.
Mayor, do you look forward, or are you looking at any other 21st century police reforms? You mentioned body-worn cameras. That's something that the city of Oakland has had for more than a decade. What about some of the other best practices that other cities like San Francisco, for example, have adopted in terms of best practices?
Right. So body cameras and dash cams are the ones folks are familiar with and get excited about. Obviously, there's some more wonky stuff that we threw in there that we thought was important. We just created our police oversight board. That's going to be critical in terms of accountability. I mean, the studies show it. We've also, as you know, banned the knee to neck positions or techniques that specifically can cause positional asphyxiation. We have a new protocol for when everybody is informed, when certain incidents that involve the police happen and who needs to be informed. Chief Ford was key to our police reform efforts. He is a police reform in and of itself here. But I think as we establish more, as we create, as hopefully we put people in these positions that are permanent, we can begin to evaluate where we're at and then think through our next phase of police reforms. Because my intention when I announced the first phase of police reform was just that it was the first phase. And then we've had different iterations in terms of new proposals that we put out there. So we'll continue our police reform efforts. In terms of 21st century policing, Dr. Ford, so Dr. Ford has been tasked with coming up with other recommendations as it may relate to police reform. And then, of course, our oversight body I'm sure, will inherit some of these police reform initiatives or propose police reform initiatives. And so that was the intention of that, so that it wasn't singularly focused on the work that the city council did, but that there was community involved in that process.
And I don't know if this got asked already, but are you able to release the names of the officers who are?
You know I cannot do that. So no, I cannot.
When is a special meeting? Do you have that set yet?
It'll probably be this Friday.
As far as the vote tomorrow is for the incentives, correct?
Yes.
So if it passes, would that immediately kick in where if officers are moving laterally or new hires are moving
Yes,
by bonus?
absolutely. And we had a few academy grads that just came maybe about a week or so ago, and or we have academy candidates who are currently at the academy who I would work, or at least ask council to consider including them as well. Okay, everybody good? Fantastic.
Thank you all for coming out, really appreciate it, this was nice.
Would you be interested, or is it, oh, okay. No problem.
Thank
Do
you.
you want to do your Spanish sound there?
Congratulations.
Oh no, we can
We go ahead and
do it.